I'm going to talk about Shadow of Mordor.
Has there been a Mordor?
Middle-earth, Shadow of Mordor. There's
been a Mordor.
There's been a Mordor, yes, I see it. Yeah.
I noticed you're being cutting edge again and getting on this just before the sequel comes out.
Absolutely, the sequel's about to come out, and here I am just finally... I bought it in the most recent Steam sale thing, but it'd been sat on my desktop, and I've been sort of somewhat trepidatious of double-clicking on it, because that becomes a new investment of time and caring and stuff. And yeah, I sort of finally got around to firing it up. God, it's hard work.
What do you mean it's hard work?
It's hard work. It is a very hard work game. I mean, it starts off all glorious, lavish, etc. Remember, I come out of this off the back of Mad Max, the Mad Max game, yeah. And
that's a hard write, isn't it?
And an aficionado of various Assassin's Creed games over the years, and have played Arkham Asylum, and yeah, it is very much Middle-earth Assassin's Creed, isn't it? So yeah, you there's a bit of plot and some stuff, and you wake up dead.
There's a bit of story rewriting.
Yeah, apparently it all takes place, I can't quite work it out, at some point. This all takes place, I think, well before Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
It's some point during not the Second Age, because that's Numenor. No, some point in the early Third Age, long before Frodo and the Ring and all that happens. Gollum's in it, but that doesn't mean a lot, because Gollum's about 800 years old at the time of Lord of the Rings. So you are a ranger who's been posted on the battlements of what will become the Black Gate of Mordor before Sauron's full return to Mordor itself. He's presumably somewhere still in Mirkwood as the necromancer at this point.
There's been a Sauron.
There's been a Sauron, and you're killed. There's some sort of big invasion, and the Black Hand, who's like this elite sort of lieutenant of Sauron who appears nowhere in any of the books, and
it's a common theme with that.
And his small group of elite lieutenant left-hand men, the Tower of Sauron and the Shield of Sauron and the three-way multi-tool of Sauron, they all sort of gather around and beat you to death and carry out a ritual where they kill you in a certain way, and they kill your family in front of you and then kill you, and this then binds your soul to a wraith who's some sort of elf lord, and we don't know who that is yet, but I've got a bit of a feeling. And so you sort of wake up as a sort of undead, half ranger, half elf lord wraith superhero type. It's all very, I don't know. I'm reaching, and I think the word contrived.
It's an excuse to give you the detective vision.
You got the detective vision, eagle sight. Only it's wraith vision, but you don't have to have the one ring. You just can do that by pressing V. It's fine, which lets you see through buildings and see orcs and stuff. And you find yourself on top of an invisible tower, and looking out. And you get to jump off. It's the first thing it says to do is push W and space to jump forwards, and you do the big jump. Only there's no hay cart there. You just go wham. Yeah, because you're already dead. So
somehow you turn into a ghost.
You turn into a ghost.
Sometimes you get your body back.
I think turning into a ghost must kill your momentum or something. It's ghost physics. It's a weird old mishmash. It really is. They've got the license, fair enough, and they've decided to cobble together some kind of very derivative sort of open map activities, sort of Assassin's Creedy things. I got a feeling it was probably another game, but they didn't get the license they were expecting or something. So,
sort of, yes.
Yeah.
Did you know that it apparently started off in the early design stages as a Batman game about gangs in Gotham? You're Batman and you got the gangs.
You are so Batman. Yeah, absolutely. And there are gangs, lieutenants and orcs and stuff. So you're wandering around a load of orc encampments and old ruined fortifications from the Second Age and so on, and the orcs are everywhere. And it's the usual sort of thing, stalking, counter-based combat fighting. Yeah. There's an ability tree, you work up with your runes and your power points and your XP and so on. There's this weird mishmash system of progression in there as well. And you're trying to basically, I think you need to, the idea, I think the plot is you're trying to find this Black Hand, who's some kind of sort of scary mini Sauron type, and kill him, because you're quite angry because he killed you.
Miffed.
Yeah, exactly. And the elf spirit that's been bound to you by this weird ritual also wants to take him out as well. So, it's like a sort of buddy cop movie, only you're both halves of the buddy.
Yeah.
Every so often this wraith will step out of you and you have a bit of a chat about using the fear against the enemy, blah blah blah. It's such a weird thing. It's got all the curly elf writing on the UI, and it's got the sword and the dour looking Aragorn type XP, and it's got the sort of the elf spirit type there. And as I say, yeah, Gollum makes a cameo as well with some side missions, but it's
because that's what Gollum's for.
It's just too desperate. It desperately wants to be a Lord of the Rings thing,
It's
but
not Lord of the Rings.
Nothing, absolutely nothing to do with Lord of the Rings in any sense, shape, or form. It's got Middle Earth on it and the curly elf writing.
They've taken a bit. They started rewriting bits.
Yeah, I mean the Orcs. I do like the Orcs. The Orcs are really well done. I mean, part of my I have real problems with this game in various different ways that are somewhat expectable of me, but I don't like the Orcs because they taunt you a lot.
Yeah,
this is a game that I don't know if I'm playing it right or wrong. It's a game that wants you to lose, and losing fairly often is actually required to move forward.
Yeah,
because of the way
sometimes losing is a tactic you want to use.
Yeah. Well, so you got these various orcs. There's loads and loads of orcs everywhere, and that's a problem because you get into that. It wants you to do stealth, and I try to do stealth, but sometimes you get it wrong, and sometimes you end up in open sword fighting and stuff, and it absolutely goes mental. I'm not kidding. There have sometimes been 30 or 40 orcs all clustered around me, waiting for their turn, and their symbols appear above the head. It is Batman combat, but it's also Assassin's Creed combat, and it's the worst of Assassin's Creed 1, where the guards would never stop coming, And I suppose that's the game telling me, no, you should stop fighting and run away and hide. And I don't want to run away. I want to be the hero. I want to win. That's surely the point of fighting,
They can't be brooding that fast.
And that's coupled with this weird. Well, for starters, you've got a nightmare console controller port to PC. The buttons are all over the place. Hold down space to run.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Hold down left shift to sneak.
Yeah.
And then there's like E to do some attacks and right click to counter, but then left click, and then of course it's all chain wallop combat as you're bouncing backwards and forwards between people around you, very much like Batman and Assassin's Creed and whatever, but your sword appears to do almost negligible damage to any of the enemies. You hit an orc about 7 or 8 times and eventually stars will appear over his head and he'll sort of collapse on the floor, at which point you can then hold down left shift and right to pull the dagger and do a ground execution. But the ground execution animation takes about 2 or 3 seconds, and at any point, if you take damage during that, it cancels.
Yep.
And of course, if there are 2 orcs there, the other orc is going to hit you while you're trying to execute his mate. So practically speaking, you can't pull off the ground kill executions. I mean, sort of a little way in, you get the ability unlocked to your sword starts to glow if you get like 8 hits in a row, and that then means you can push F, another random key press, to just suddenly execute one of them, and that will go into sort of cutscene in combat immunity.
Yeah,
so
I use that an awful lot.
That's the only way I can kill them when there's more than 3 of them around. So, I mean, eventually, if you just keep wailing on them with the basic sword attack, they eventually will die. But this is so tedious. And in the time it takes to do that, 3 or 4 more have, teleported, have been spawned around a corner and come running in. So the combat, I just find it's really unpleasant and unwelcome. I'm just not enjoying combat in that game in the slightest. I quite like the stealth of it all, the creeping up behind and stealth takedowns, assassinations. You got the obligatory leaping airdrop kills and the creep up behind with a knife and stuff. You got the crouch in the bushes and lure them over sort of attack. That kind of stealth gameplay is quite satisfying, but if you get it wrong, and it really does seem to me like you have got it wrong and you're being punished by being made to do the open combat, which is just awful. I find I just can't play this game for more than about half an hour at a time, and I really want to like it. I want to crack on and want to, get involved in what little, because of some plot, the sort of very generic sort of I'm going to get my revenge type plot going on there. There was a wife and a child at the start, I think. I don't really know. I wasn't
Families
really
exist in these things just to give you motivation.
Yes. It's a tough break being a wife or child in this kind of world.
Possibly have any motivation unless innocent people are killed.
Is it not enough to just want to fight the evil that is Sauron?
Yeah.
I have to have everything taken from me first, okay. Because otherwise I was quite ambivalent about the Dark Lord Sauron and his reign of evil.
You were a ranger or something, somebody whose job it was.
Yes. How about just protecting Gondor? I could sign up for that. That's all right, yes. I'll take
By definition, the character was invested.
And all the NPCs, you meet this outcast. So you got the native population of the land that was Mordor before Mordor. There's apparently outcast peoples who live there, humans, and they're all like mostly enslaved now, but there's a couple who are there, and some of the of course, obviously the only other human people you're working with are people who were originally you were sent out to hunt down and execute because they betrayed Gondor, blah blah blah. It's got that whole dark and gritty thing in spades, and that's really not, oddly enough, despite everything that goes on in Lord of the Rings, Sam and Frodo's travails in Mordor and stuff, it's not a dark and gritty novel at all.
No.
It is very clearly good and evil and hope hope triumphing over the darkness and the despair. And this is all
Friendship will win.
exactly, yeah. But this is absolutely the Batman story. This is like the dark age of comics. This is, we've all made sacrifices. It's I have to be very careful not to become more evil than the evil I'm fighting. Blah blah blah. And it's not even the temptation of the ring. This is just everything shit, and we're all going to just have to get on with it. I haven't actually played. What game is it with Star Wars where you're Darth Vader's ex-apprentice or something?
Force Unleashed.
Force Unleashed. So for a long time it was Jedi Knight, Jedi Outcast, Jedi Knight, the Carl Catan stuff, which was all pretty lightweight, pretty in the spirit of Star Wars. Yeah. But then they decided, no, we were all a bit fed up with the good versus bad Star Wars story, because that's all now for kids. That's Clone Wars or whatever. So they decided, let's reinvent Star Wars to be some dark and gritty thing where the hero is just slightly less evil than Vader, and you're Star Killer or whatever his name is, and you're the apprentice of the dark side, and the best you can hope for is a renegade type, shepherd type outcome instead of just full on evil. And you sort of miss the point and the draw of something like Star Wars or Lord of the Rings.
The reason for that game existed was so that you could be using the dark side force powers.
Well, yeah, it's cool to be shooting stuff with lightning, but I can do that. I can do that in Skyrim.
The force pushing people off the edge of platforms.
Yeah. Well, why not go for the dark playthrough? Jedi Knight had a really satisfying and quite well written dark Kyle Katarn story path, which turned out not to be canon in the end for the sequels, obviously. But if you played the original Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2 thing, because that was with all the FMV stuff, you played that on the dark side. It was quite grim, but you got to play with all the dark powers as well, and it was a very interesting story. But now that's sort of taken on it's all got to be dark and gritty, and I thought that was something even comics and superhero films were getting away from nowadays.
They're trying to.
Guardians of the Galaxy, and
that was a bit dark.
I think that wasn't that dark.
Have you seen the second one?
No, I haven't. No. And I understand Thor Ragnarok's not quite so grimdark either these days. But
Thor Ragnarok's a bit neon, and it's going to be fantastic.
Yes, and that seems to be a welcome relief to that whole, almost going back as far as the Tim Burton Batman.
Yeah.
The whole.
It's got to be the Dark Knight.
It's really, it's very difficult to tell the difference between the hero and the bad people.
Well, it's when Schumacher came along and made his Batman film with all of the neon and everything, and everyone hated it. But you look back at it now, and he tried to do something else, which is a good
thing.
To
break out of this, it's just terrible responsibility, darkness, blah blah. And I get that that's
jokes in it.
That's sort of Batman's thing, but you just get a bit tired of it.
If we look at the definitive list of good Batman, there's
Adam West,
the animated series, and Adam West, and that's it. And
Kevin Conroy is, but
and they were both quite light.
Well, anyway, so back to Shadow of Mordor. I'm sort of slugging away at it, but I'm it's just such hard work all the time. For starters, you've got this Nemesis system.
This is the longest any review of this game has ever gone in without mentioning the good thing about the game.
I've just been raging on the basic gameplay yet. Let me get started on the big USP. Yeah, so the Nemesis system.
The interesting thing about the game.
Yeah, so it's basically, there are various orc captains all around these areas. It's a usual map of different zones with little activity icons in it. And in each of these zones are various different orc captains. And half the time I end up accidentally hitting them in open combat without even realising they were captains, which is a problem. Because unless you use your detective vision, your wraith vision, to scan around, you don't actually know that these are captains, because they must have spent a very long time coming up with a procedural orc generator.
Yes,
because there are just loads and loads. It's not just
it's a pork generator.
It's really good. It's really well done. It's really good. You've got. I don't think I've ever seen any game ever where the enemies are so interesting and varied across the whole field.
There's not.
It's
enough
not
voices.
just here are 4 models and we're just going to palette swap them.
There's not enough voices, but
that's
everything else is good.
Yeah. They're just hundreds and hundreds of varieties of orc, and some of these are captains.
Yeah.
And some of them, if you get killed in open combat or whatever by a normal orc, he gets promoted.
Yeah.
He gets his big break. And they really rub it in when they kill you. They the camera zooms in on their face, and they're really quite vile with their taunts and stuff. And
they don't get too miffed when you come back, though.
That triggers me. That triggers me quite badly, so I get quite cross, and I do go charging after them. Where is he? And that's an intended thing that's worked well. I have started to build actual personal resentments to specific orcs.
Have you got to the bit where you're
so it works well.
Have you got to the bit where you're building a network?
No, not really. I've freed the rat bag. One of the orcs who's been tied up.
There's a mechanic
sort of
it gives you far too late in the game.
Yeah,
which you will get later.
Okay, fair enough.
Which makes the entire Nemesis system mean something.
So basically, these orcs are all vying amongst each other, and each time one of them kills you, he gains power and defeats several other captains, gets more powerful, and so on. And there's this big sort of ranking array of them.
Yeah.
They're all shadows to start with, so you have to go around and find intelligence. So certain orcs you need to grab and force suck memories from their heads. I keep using dark force powers. It is you are such a dark Jedi in this thing. It really is sort of Mary Sue. I have all the powers from every hero everywhere. Just over the top thing going on there. So yeah, you manage to suck their memories out, and that will then reveal certain orcs and where they are and what their names are, and then you need to do again and apply more intelligence to the same one, and then you can find out a whole list of weaknesses and vulnerabilities, which is an interesting thing. I guess they're randomly generated.
Yeah. What comes next, which you don't have, is the ability to have orcs on your side.
Okay.
You basically make it so orcs basically... In the Batman idea, they would have become informants.
Yes.
But in this, they become... basically people who are secretly on your side. So if you're having a fight, they will help you.
Okay.
And so you can do things. If you want to
take
over
building
one
towards
guy,
some kind of civil war.
Yeah,
thing.
if you're trying to take up one guy and his two underlings are on your side, they will help you in the fight.
Okay, interesting.
And that's where it starts getting interesting, because you only get it halfway through the game.
At which point you're already well into your basic method of dealing with it all. Yeah,
I think you only get it when you open the second map.
Right.
Second map.
Yeah. I guess there's a gateway at the south end.
So you end up trying to get some people, trying to level them up into a position where they can be promoted, so they're in the right position to be able to do what you want to do later.
Yeah, I see.
Which is where it comes really interesting.
That sounds interesting, but as you say, it sounds. I have actually seen other people review this thing and say that this kind of stuff comes in way too late. Yeah, it seems a shame. If that would have been an early mechanic, but there's a lot to get used to very early on as well. So you've got these vulnerabilities and weaknesses, which are interesting, but they're clearly randomly generated, as all these orc captains are. They've got like a big list of names they draw from, and then they'll put together various facial features and a whole load of weaknesses and vulnerabilities, and off they go. But some of them are a bit weird. Yeah, exactly. Some of them can be taken down from headshots from a long way away with your Wraith mode bow zoom fire bam.
Slows time.
But some of them are totally immune to arrows, and unless you've done the intelligence, you won't know until you take a shot at them, which is really bad.
Yeah, the first time you set yourself up for the perfect kill, then doink off the head.
Oh hell! Immune to arrows. Oh, I've learnt something about this one then.
Also, how does that work?
But you get ones that are immune to everything except being run down by being ridden on the back of a Kadazor thing. There's these basically evil warg dog things that are around the place, and they're hilarious actually, because they will just go after orcs as much as you.
Do you let them out?
Yeah, I always do. Yeah, I feel bad about the prisoners and slaves who also get munched, but yeah, it's a fantastic distraction. But you get the ability to jump on one from above in sort of Legolas style and use your mind powers to tame it. And then there's some of these bosses can only be killed from being ridden. Yeah, there's a whole riding mechanic in there, which I'm not very good at all. And I keep accidentally leaping off the thing, and I have real problems with the controls. And this is as well as the usual Assassin's Creed problem of accidentally leaping onto nearby lampposts all the time, when you're trying to run down a street. You got that going on. I'm always leaping onto the wrong pillar or flying off the ledge. Oh, hello. And then that's coupled with the fact that pretty much all of the controls are on buttons that don't make any sense and are different to most of the other third-person games I play lately. I mean, does it play better on a controller? Yes. I imagine it probably does. I don't have I had one of those 360 controllers for PC, but the battery's leaked in the back and now it's useless. I'd have to buy another one now, so no, I'm not going to. So I'm going to soldier on with this awful key mapping. Maybe I'll start remapping it myself once I've worked out what I want it to actually do.
The problem with that is then you can never remember when you come back.
I know. It's I'm fighting the controls most of the way through. It just doesn't have, comparing like for like, Assassin's Creed really have solved that. Yes. Certainly by the second and third games, you are in control of your character. Yeah, you still occasionally leap onto a lamppost and hang there because you're an idiot, but they've
mostly it makes the right guess.
And then with Batman, that's not really even that kind of parkour combat that movement anyway. Batman's much more of a methodical plodder, and he will poof up to things now and then, but he was much more slow and controllable. It's not, you're not parkour flying across these levels anyway. But with this Shadow of Mordor thing, where another company has tried to implement the same kind of game, they've just not quite hit the mark with the controls, I think. I don't know, maybe I haven't even been playing it a week or two, perhaps I'll grow into it, obviously, but initially, having played several of these games in the past, I can see this one doesn't flow as well. I'm always pushing the wrong button, doing the wrong thing. So I mean, the Nemesis system's quite funny in some respects, because there I am crouched in a bush waiting to make my move, and this orc captain is vulnerable to being munched on by the dog things, and a dog thing just runs in from the left of the screen, finds him, leaps on him, munches him, and suddenly, bomb, killed. I was like, what? Hey! Referee.
I've had it happen when I wasn't even looking.
Yeah, a couple of times. Just, some behind the back of shot, the captain gets nailed by something. So that can lead to some sort of unintentional hilarity, but I suppose that's the whole Nemesis system. I can see, but the problem is killing the captains is how you generate the red XP, and the red XP is required to unlock tiers of abilities. And I could see a wretched situation where I'm going to find myself. I really, really hope it's not necessary to just go and die lots and lots to the same boss just to get enough points. Because that's death leveling, and that was stupid in Guild Wars. I don't even want to go into that again now. But the idea that you would have to die over and over and over just to make your enemy powerful enough to give you enough points that you can then profit from killing him, that sounds absolutely wretched. So hopefully it won't come to that. But it's continually generating new orcs up from the ranks all the time you're killing them. So I'm guessing you don't ever get to just clear the board of orcs. There's always new captains coming through.
You might control all the orcs, but
yeah. So I suppose that they're not really a nemesis in that sense. They're more of a resource at that point, which is a bit odd. Farming the enemy that's an MMO thing, isn't it? But, so I mean, it's got your little side challenges. I quite like the hunting the animals one, killing spiders and rats and things, or finding the right kinds of herbs to tick off lists.
There's one ancient artifact-y thing I could never find.
There's lots of hiddens to go and find, and I see the old rotate an object game is there.
Yeah,
I last saw that in Tomb Raider 2013 thing.
It was popular for a couple of years.
Yeah, here is a thing. Turn it round so you can look at the back. I've looked at the back. There's a thing. Oh, well done you.
Identify the glowing point on this item.
Find the spot on this three-dimensional object.
Take this round peg, put it into this square hole.
It's just, why, what? Okay, fine, thank you.
It's why I don't play new games. It's full of this rubbish.
That's a weird semi-emergent mechanic we could do without seeing again, to be honest.
Most of them are.
Doesn't really help or further anything. Yeah, fine, by all means, investigate the thing, show us some lore, but don't make me have to turn a bowl over to look at the bottom of it to see the next bit of lore. That's a waste of my time. I'm a busy person.
That is not gameplay.
Not really.
You may think it's gameplay.
As games go, that's quite simplistic, yes. Turn an object over to look at the back. Tick. You got your bow and your dagger and your sword, and they've all got rune slots, and you gain runes when you kill captains, but they seem to be quite randomly generated as well, and that's
you may not get the one you want.
Weird power leveling thing going on there as well. It's just hard work. I think largely it is this whole intransigence of the combat. It's just... you just think, oh God, I've bollocked up my silent takedown, and now I have to fight 30 orcs. I could just die, I suppose, get it over with. But you're starting to subvert the point of playing a game at that point. If you're, starting to, if victory is not even about defeating the enemy anymore.
The problem I found with the game was it was an idea, and they didn't put enough game behind it. You've got to do all these things, but why do you have to do all these things? And you're basically just shuffling resources.
Yeah, I mean, I'm playing it off the back of playing Mad Max, another Warner Brothers open world Rome, and Mad Max is much better, to be honest. It fits its IP much better, and it's just the combat is, again, Mad Max is about heavy, stompy counter kill combat as well in the Batman style, and it's much more satisfying, much more manageable. You've got interesting types of enemies. You say it's not all about just keep countering and eventually you'll be fine. Because you remember in Assassin's Creed, certainly the second game, they started introducing enemies, big bruiser types who you couldn't counter kill. They just kept smacking you in the face when you tried.
To avoid the problem in the first
you just sit there pressing.
You just end up wasting.
Yeah, you stand there on a crossroads in the first game, just pushing counter, and eventually everyone would die and you'd win. But they invented new enemy types that were resistant to that you had to jump over or throw grenades at or whatever. But it's like you're being introduced to those sorts of enemies right at the word go in Shadow of Mordor. But there's the hunter ones who will just stand there throwing spears at you, and those things really hurt. And unless you close with them, and there'll be 4 or 5 orcs between you and them, they're just going to nail you. Let alone archers actually on top.
Jump over the head.
You've got to really work for it, and it just seems like a lot of hard work for basic ground fodder. I'd understand if this was like a boss fight arena. And how is it for boss fight, by the way? Most of the orc captains I've met so far are not boss fights; they're just normal monsters with a few few more stats.
You are fine. Basically, there's nothing too bad until the very, very end.
Yeah, I imagine fighting the Hand of Sauron's going to be an absolute pain in the arse. But
the entire end of the game is bollocks.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to that.
It's not a spoiler because it's a game. And
yeah. So I don't know. It's a really odd thing. It got rave reviews and everything, and I personally really have enjoyed Monolith's work. They No One Lives Forever and Tron 2.0 amongst other things. Aliens vs Predator, the first one. So they're a good company who do good games.
It's not
but this thing is just
it's not a bad game. It's just not.
It feels thrown together.
Yeah, it's bits. And it's the sort of thing you think, okay, they'll fix that in the sequel. And the sequel's about putting together an army.
Yeah, so you're using Shadow of War, which is coming soon.
Using the mechanics in there to dominate people, get them on your side, and build up a force. Yeah. And that sounds a lot better. I'm not going to play that, though.
Fair enough. I mean,
I've decided that I don't. Do you know what their microtransaction selling point is?
Oh, there's a whole load of crap in the launcher window with like things you could buy and stuff. I've no interest in any of that. Oh no,
you get orcs from lockboxes.
Lockboxes and single player games. This is where we're at now. Yeah. Well done, everyone.
I'll wait till it turns up free on one of the.
Well, I only bought this thing as $5 on Steam or whatever, so it's not a huge investment. I'm going to keep playing it because I like the idea, and I'm vaguely interested in just learning more about Middle Earth and so on. But this has the fear.
You're not learning about Middle Earth. No. You're learning about something.
This is a whole load of made-up, non-canon stuff.
In the sequel, he makes you a ring.
Well, why not?
Yeah.
Just yes.
Spoiler.
Okay. Yeah. So. I'll keep playing, but it's an odd thing. It's an odd thing. I almost find myself missing Lord of the Rings Online because at least that was a much more faithful adaptation of the much loved source material.
They'd read the book.
They'd actually read the books. Yeah, this is
even the Silmarillion.
They mention Gondor every now and then, but that's about all you've really got tangentially. Yeah, absolutely. Now you explain about the whole it was going to be a Batman game. That's right, because I think Monolith did Gotham Imposters.
One of them.
That big sort of land deathmatchy thing where you were fighting for either the Joker's side or Batman's side and dressed up heroes thing.
That wasn't land. That
was whatever.
That was cashing in on the popular of the time of the.
But yeah. Mind you, that's surprising that you couldn't get the Batman license, but that you were fine with a Lord of the Rings tie-in game. I would have thought the licenses
it's not
would
whether or not they could get the license; it's what they were allowed to use. Because don't forget that Warner Brothers have the license,
yes,
and the Batman license,
but they don't have the Hobbit license. It's all like weird, complicated.
It was probably that they just needed a Lord of the Rings game.
I don't know.
Or had to put a game out to get the license going. Maybe.
I mean, as a sort of stealth roam box, it's serviceable. But in terms of basic mechanics and flow and controls and stuff, I've played better.
Yeah. It looks nice.
It does look nice.
It looks nice, and it's got nice orcs.
Yeah, the orcs are very good. As an orc simulator,
it's a really good orc simulator.
Yes, and Gollum's in it as well. But I couldn't work out if that was actually Andy Serkis or someone doing an Andy Serkis impression.
One of the good things about Andy Serkis' Gollum is everyone can do an impression of it.
Fair enough. So there you go, Shadow of Mordor. I probably keep going with it, but I don't know yet. It's a don't know.
Wait until
I'm sure it has moments. It probably has moments of genius, and as you say, this could just be that early stage where they deliberately keep you unpowerful, just so that you can become powerful. But maybe once I've unlocked all my abilities, it'll all hang together better. But at the moment, it's just hard work, and I can only really play it in small doses, which is probably not good.